Tesla shareholders, Tesla fans, and Tesla employees have been waiting for. There were a couple of thousand of them who were there outside the plant in Fremont as Elon Musk drove onto stage.
If you drive a Tesla Model 3, something changed overnight and you didn't get a heads up. A silent update hit thousands of vehicles across the globe. No flashy announcement, no big release notes, just a vague message about performance enhancements. But what happened next left drivers stunned. Some say their cars feel quicker, like a hidden boost was unlocked. Others noticed strange drops in range, especially in cold weather. A few even swear their Model 3 handles differently, like it's learning or being tested. So what's really going on here? Is this a free upgrade, a stealth experiment, or something Tesla hopes you won't notice until it's too late? What's happening? On a quiet Monday morning in early August, Model 3 owners across the United States and the United Kingdom received an over-the-air update labeled version 2025.26.4. The patch notes were brief, mentioning drive feel enhancements and adaptive performance recalibration. But what followed was anything but ordinary. Some drivers reported a noticeably sharper throttle response. Others noticed smoother deceleration under regenerative braking. A few claimed their Model 3 felt like it had entered a sport mode they never paid for. Posts began pouring into Tesla owner forums, X threads, and Discord servers. "It feels like a new car," one owner in Manchester wrote. But did anyone else lose a few miles of range? For the first time in years, Tesla had rolled out a global driving dynamics shift without any detailed technical explanation. It wasn't a cosmetic change or a minor patch. It altered how people interacted with their cars, turning the familiar into something subtly and sometimes disturbingly new. Owners were curious, some were thrilled, others felt uneasy, but no one expected what would come next. Not from their dashboards, and certainly not from the data trail the update left behind. That unusual behavior wasn't a bug. It was the first clue something deeper had been rewritten. One update, thousands of reactions. Within 24 hours, Tesla forums transformed into battlegrounds, and one number changed everything. Owners began posting conflicting experiences. Some claimed their cars were accelerating faster than ever before. Others swore their battery estimates were dropping faster than usual on their daily commutes. One widely shared post from a Chicago-based driver showed a 5% increase in power draw during standard acceleration. Telemetry nerds dove into Teslascope and similar services. What they found stunned even longtime enthusiasts: a spike in peak power output from Model 3s equipped with rear-wheel drive configurations. No mention of this appeared in the official changelog, but powertrain data suggested that the motors were being pushed harder, even on eco settings. One data analyst dubbed it stealth performance injection. The name stuck. Then came the graphs, color-coded overlays showing post-update energy usage climbing in city driving conditions. The implications were clear. This was not just about performance feel. Something deeper had changed in the car's software layer. And yet, Tesla stayed silent. No blog posts, no tweets, no comment to journalists. Owners scrambled to understand what had changed and why. Some welcomed the update as a free gift. Others feared it was a data experiment disguised as a feature. But while debates raged online, one owner uncovered something buried not in the car, but in Tesla's fine print. What no one expected was that the real twist wasn't in the code, it was in the contract. If your Tesla's changed since the update, hit like and share your experience in the comments. Your voice could confirm what others are just starting to notice. Buried in the fine print, Tesla's latest update came with a contract, one most people never noticed. In order to access the new performance features, some Model 3 owners were prompted to accept updated terms of service. Buried inside a wall of text was a new clause titled Performance Mode Consent. By enabling the enhanced drive settings, users acknowledge that the car's dynamics may temporarily exceed factory baseline operation, and that Tesla assumes no liability for unintended wear or range fluctuations. Lawyers reviewing the clause described it as unprecedented. While beta programs are nothing new, this effectively placed responsibility for post-update consequences on the owner without clear language explaining what had changed or why it mattered. It wasn't just an opt-in, it was a legal transfer of risk. Consumer advocates flagged it instantly. "They're asking owners to sign off on engineering experiments without disclosure," said one representative from a tech accountability group. It wasn't just about car performance. It was about Tesla shifting the legal burden of their software decisions onto the driver by embedding consent into a click. Many owners didn't even realize they had agreed. The checkbox appeared as part of a typical update screen. No fanfare, no warning, just a quiet consent to something still undefined. But that silence didn't last long, because someone else had noticed too. People who carry far more weight than frustrated owners. Across boardrooms and briefing rooms, a new concern began to rise: legal exposure. Tesla just got a knock on the door. Before the week was out, regulators from both sides of the Atlantic demanded answers. The U.S. National Highway Traffic Safety Administration confirmed it had launched a preliminary inquiry into the performance mode clause. In parallel, the European Commission's consumer safety body issued a formal information request to Tesla's Brussels office. Their concern that the update constituted a safety modification without proper disclosure or oversight. According to internal sources, several Tesla service centers in Germany and California were advised to temporarily pause software rollout for affected Model 3s. A memo distributed internally cited ongoing legal reviews related to consent and driver safety as the reason. Technicians were instructed to flag any vehicles with version 2025.26.4 and notify owners that certain drive behaviors may be temporarily limited pending further guidance. News outlets caught wind quickly. Headlines painted a chaotic picture. Performance enhancements activated without regulation, cars behaving outside spec, and customers caught in the middle of a technological gray zone. Tesla refused to comment, offering only a vague statement about continued improvements based on real-world learning. But behind the scenes, regulatory officials were not treating this as a glitch. To them, it looked like a software manufacturer testing its limits in the physical world without asking permission. Far from the headlines, Tesla's battery systems were already telling their own story. The battery rewrite. No one noticed. The real change wasn't in the pedals, it was in the pack. While owners obsessed over faster acceleration and sharper throttle response, Tesla engineers quietly pushed a more consequential shift, a reconfiguration of the thermal control algorithm governing battery pack behavior. Before the update, Tesla's Model 3 battery management system triggered cooling fans and temperature balancing at relatively conservative thresholds. But after the update, diagnostic scans revealed a recalibration that allowed battery temperatures to spike higher before active cooling kicked in. On paper, this might seem efficient. Less cooling means lower auxiliary energy use. In reality, it raises serious concerns about long-term cell degradation, especially under sustained stress. Engineers analyzing logs from post-update cars noticed that thermal equilibrium was reached nearly 20% slower in high-demand driving scenarios. The temperature delta between cells also increased, which can accelerate lithium plating, an irreversible process that reduces overall battery lifespan. What worried some independent analysts was not just the change itself, but the lack of transparency. Tesla did not mention battery thermal logic in the update notes, yet thousands of vehicles were now behaving differently under the hood. The long-term consequences? Unknown. But one thing was clear. Tesla was walking a fine line between efficiency and early degradation. Then came the cold, and with it, the first real test of what Tesla had changed. Frozen roads, missing miles. In freezing cities, Tesla owners started noticing something terrifying. Their range was vanishing faster than ever. By mid-December, just 4 months after the software update, Model 3 drivers in places like Minneapolis, Toronto, and Warsaw began reporting sudden drops in cold weather range. "I lost over 30 miles of expected charge overnight," one Polish driver wrote. Same route, same temp, new problem. Real-world testing by EV bloggers confirmed the trend. Vehicles that previously averaged 270 miles per full charge in 0 degrees Celsius conditions were now struggling to hit 230. The pattern wasn't consistent across all regions, but where the cold bit hardest, the update seemed to bite harder. Tesla's regenerative braking, normally a cold weather ally, was noticeably weaker at low speeds, requiring more frequent friction braking and reducing efficiency further. Independent diagnostics hinted that the battery preconditioning cycle had been altered post-update, likely as a side effect of the performance changes. In short, Tesla had tuned the car for higher output, but hadn't accounted for the energy penalty that came with it in winter environments. For long-range commuters and rural drivers, this wasn't a minor adjustment. It was a logistical nightmare. Forums flooded again, but this time with cold fingers, not hot takes. And while Tesla said nothing, a different group began celebrating. Drivers who had unlocked blistering acceleration on dry roads, where the chill exposed weakness, a rush of speed offered something more dangerous: temptation. Fast. Too fast? For a brief moment, Tesla gave owners a taste of performance they never paid for, but it came at a cost. After the update, dozens of Model 3 owners noticed that their 0 to 60 acceleration times had improved by nearly half a second. Some reported launches as low as 3.8 seconds, figures previously associated with the performance trim only. "It feels like a stealth, ludicrous mode," one owner in Los Angeles posted, sharing dashcam footage of the improved launch. Speed-focused YouTube channels ran benchmark tests comparing pre- and post-update performance under identical conditions. The results? Consistently faster acceleration across a range of builds, not just in dual-motor configurations, but even in older long-range models. Tesla hadn't mentioned a single word about these gains in its update notes, but the changes were unmistakable. Some owners called it a generous surprise. Others were more cautious. Veteran EV engineers pointed out that pushing the powertrain harder without upgrading the cooling system or drive inverter components could lead to hidden wear. In fact, several owners in hotter climates noticed the car throttling power after repeated launches. The performance gains were exciting, but they didn't feel permanent, more like a flash of potential rather than a stable upgrade. And as the speed tests faded into TikToks and trending clips, a darker story emerged behind the scenes, one that never reached the public release notes. What thrilled the public quietly terrified some of the people who built it. The engineer who tried to stop it. He worked in thermal calibration. He left in silence. But what he leaked changed everything. Known only as Delta 9, the whistleblower posted anonymously to a private Tesla engineer forum before his account vanished. His message was short but chilling. This version wasn't validated in mixed weather testing. Cooling loop not tuned for regen plus acceleration combo. Expected issues. They pushed it anyway. Attached was a redacted internal QA report dated June of the same year, which showed warnings about thermal inconsistencies in high-load, low-temperature scenarios. According to the report, engineers flagged a potential mismatch between software-calibrated acceleration mapping and the physical limitations of the powertrain system under sustained use. But management had already greenlit the deployment schedule. The warnings were archived, the update went live. By January, the post had spread across EV forums, tech blogs, and a few brave newsletters. Tesla remained silent, offering no confirmation or denial. But the timeline aligned: cold weather performance failures, service center overload, and a sudden stop to rollout in certain areas all matched the original whistleblower's warnings. For some Tesla owners, it was the final straw. The idea that performance had been pushed without environmental validation felt reckless, even dangerous. But inside Tesla's highest offices, they weren't treating this as a recall risk. By the time the leaks hit the surface, the people paying the price weren't engineers. They were drivers. Owners pushed back hard. It started with frustration, but turned into something Tesla couldn't control. By the second week of January, Model 3 owners across the internet began organizing under a single banner: "Roll it back." What began as isolated complaints about performance inconsistencies, battery issues, and range loss had escalated into a coordinated digital protest. Reddit threads, Discord servers, and owner groups from Berlin to Boston flooded with screenshots, user polls, and unified hashtags demanding that Tesla reverse the update. One post on the Tesla Motors Club forum received over 10,000 upvotes in just 12 hours. "We did not sign up to beta test your engineering experiments." Within days, a group of Model 3 drivers compiled a public statement addressed to Elon Musk, requesting a rollback to pre-update performance parameters. Their open letter gathered over 20,000 digital signatures, and while it did not constitute legal action, the optics were disastrous. Tesla, true to form, said nothing. Not a single comment, post, or acknowledgement, but that silence only fueled the fire. Owners began tracking which vehicles had received the update and created a shared map showing distribution patterns. Some even posted instructions for how to avoid the update by disabling Wi-Fi or parking in poor signal areas. And while the online backlash grew louder by the hour, Tesla was about to face an even more direct challenge, this time from across the Atlantic. While Tesla's support team stayed silent, European officials picked up the phone and started writing letters. Europe says, "Not so fast." In Brussels, Tesla's silence wasn't just criticized, it was considered a legal violation. Within 2 weeks of the update's rollout, European consumer protection agencies began launching formal inquiries into Tesla's consent protocols and software transparency. The German Federal Motor Transport Authority issued a request for Tesla's technical documentation, citing concerns about non-disclosed vehicle behavior alterations affecting driver expectation and safety. But it was France's Direction Générale de la Concurrence that made the first decisive move. They issued a preliminary ruling stating that Tesla's update may have breached European Union regulations around informed digital consent. A consumer cannot be said to consent, the report read, if the outcomes of that consent are not disclosed, predictable, or reversible. The European Commission soon followed. Legal experts in Brussels confirmed that Tesla could be in violation of the General Data Protection Regulation, not just for the way it altered in-cabin tracking, but for how it potentially collected behavioral feedback without clear opt-in. Even minor deviations in how the vehicle handled throttle response or recorded user inputs could be interpreted as biometric profiling under EU law. For the first time in Tesla's history, national regulators were threatening direct legal penalties over a software update. And unlike in the United States, European consumer protection laws carry teeth, fines, injunctions, even suspension of certain vehicle features. But Tesla's real problem wasn't just the law, it was money, because the market was watching, and it didn't like what it saw. Legal risk was one thing. Investor anxiety was something else entirely. Wall Street loses confidence. Tesla's stock had weathered scandals before, but this time, the numbers told a different story. On February 1st, Morgan Stanley downgraded Tesla from overweight to neutral, citing mounting uncertainties around service costs, regulatory headwinds, and customer trust erosion. Their report was blunt. Tesla has introduced software liabilities without matching customer communication infrastructure. This is no longer a car company. It is a behavioral data company with warranty exposure. That same week, Bloomberg Intelligence followed suit, noting that customer support wait times had doubled in certain zip codes, and that Model 3 resale values had begun to dip slightly on the used market. For a company that built its valuation on a loyal fan base and cutting-edge tech, this was an ominous signal. Investors began to ask hard questions. If Tesla could deploy an update that altered vehicle behavior without recourse, what would prevent class action risk? If owners feared their cars could change overnight, would that dampen demand? Some fund managers whispered about a Tesla premium collapse, the idea that buyers may no longer pay top dollar for the brand if the experience became unpredictable. The stock fell nearly 6% over 10 trading days. Not a crash, but a warning. Tesla's momentum was cracking. The magic was faltering. And behind the financial modeling and investor calls, something else was breaking. Something far more human. As the numbers slid, the people behind the counters were the ones absorbing the impact. Service centers can't breathe. Before the media noticed, the technicians were already exhausted. In service centers from Austin to Amsterdam, Tesla's internal crisis was playing out in real time. Update-related complaints were coming in at triple the usual volume, and the frontline workers were drowning. Every other car that rolls in now starts with the same question. What did you do to my Tesla? One technician told a reporter off the record. Internal memos leaked from several North American service branches revealed mounting stress. Managers were instructed to triage software-related complaints without escalation unless the issue was safety-related. That meant frustrated customers were told to wait, even when their cars behaved unpredictably. In one branch in Ontario, 3 technicians resigned within the same week. One cited unsustainable customer hostility combined with total information blackout from HQ as his reason for leaving. Tesla's internal ticketing system showed a backlog of over 30,000 unresolved cases linked to update version 2025.26.4, and yet no service bulletin had been issued. Employees were left to improvise explanations. Some blamed weather, others blamed driving style, but behind closed doors, they were furious. They launched a system-wide behavior change, said one technician, and we weren't even told what it was supposed to do. As burnout spread, morale dropped, turnover spiked, and on the digital front, customer satisfaction scores fell for the 3rd week in a row. What Tesla hadn't planned for was how quickly competitors would turn weakness into opportunity. Rivals smell blood. Tesla's rivals didn't just watch the fallout, they exploited it. As social media fumed, regulators tightened scrutiny, and customers lost trust, legacy automakers began shifting their marketing strategies. Ford, Hyundai, and Volkswagen each released subtle but pointed messaging, highlighting predictable performance, consent-first updates, and software stability. While none of them mentioned Tesla by name, the subtext was obvious. At the Chicago Auto Show, a Ford spokesperson said, "Customers buy a promise, not just horsepower." Hyundai and Volkswagen followed with ads stressing stability, consent, and transparency. One Volkswagen billboard read, "Speed is fun, control is freedom." It was not just about brand differentiation, it was market positioning. For years, Tesla dominated not only the electric vehicle space, but the cultural conversation around innovation. Now, competitors were framing themselves as the responsible alternative. Internal briefing documents from multiple automakers leaked to a tech news outlet even used the phrase Tesla trust gap to describe this new marketing angle. The shift was working. EV buyers, once loyal to Tesla's speed and edge, were now asking different questions. In the halls of government, Tesla's experiment was fast becoming a legislative target. Congress closes in. What began as a software patch became a legal flashpoint in Washington. On February 12th, the U.S. Senate Subcommittee on Consumer Protection convened a hearing titled Digital Consent in Automated Vehicles. Tesla was not officially named in the agenda, but it dominated the room. Lawmakers grilled transportation officials and industry representatives about the legality and ethics of over-the-air updates that alter vehicle behavior without clear, explicit user approval. Senator Grace Wilburn of Oregon opened with a pointed question. If a driver agrees to a minor interface tweak and ends up with a car that accelerates differently, have they consented to that change or been manipulated? The hearing grew more intense as safety experts presented data showing that Tesla's update affected not only performance metrics, but potentially altered driver reflexes under braking. Legal scholars cited the Motor Vehicle Safety Act of 1966, arguing it had not evolved to address modern software delivery models. One expert warned, "We are operating with laws written for carburetors, not algorithms." The outcome was clear. Bipartisan support emerged for new legislation that would redefine digital recall standards, require rollback options for major updates, and mandate transparency reports for every over-the-air modification that touches safety systems. Tesla did not send a representative to testify. But while lawmakers debated statutes and precedent, consumers were taking their own stand, outside of Capitol Hill and straight into Tesla's inbox. As policymakers debated policy, consumers took matters into their own hands. The movement for consent. When corporations cross a line, public backlash can feel like a hurricane. Within days of the Senate hearing, a coalition of Tesla owners, digital rights advocates, and consumer protection groups launched a national petition titled My Car, My Terms. The document demanded Tesla implement three things: the ability to opt out of any future performance-altering updates, permanent rollback access for any over-the-air modification, and full transparency reports tied to each firmware version. The petition spread like wildfire. Tech influencers shared it. EV blogs ran headlines. Even mainstream media began covering it during morning news segments. In just 1 week, the petition gained over 75,000 verified signatures, including prominent figures from the open-source software community and former Tesla employees. Supporters voiced deeper concerns. This wasn't just about performance, it was about control. "We paid for these cars," one Model 3 owner said, "not to be test subjects." Activists warned this could mark the rise of subscription-based mobility. Tesla did not respond to the petition, but internal sources said the company was watching the numbers closely. And so were investors, because the cost of ignoring this movement could be astronomical. The message was loud, the movement growing, and the financial reckoning was only just beginning. If this raised questions you've never asked before, subscribe now. We're tracking what's next, because the next move won't be announced, and you'll want to see it first. The billion-dollar mistake. It started as a software change, but it could end as a multi-billion-dollar liability. Financial analysts at Bernstein Research published a warning in late February forecasting a potential warranty bomb stemming from the software update. Their report outlined multiple compounding risks: accelerated battery degradation, potential class action litigation over non-disclosed vehicle behavior changes, and a flood of service claims tied to thermal management issues. According to the report, if even 15% of affected Model 3 vehicles required battery module replacement within the next 24 months, the cost could exceed $2.6 billion in unplanned expenses. This estimate did not include legal fees, brand damage, or stock devaluation. Other analysts began speculating about increased insurance risk and depreciation spreads across the used Model 3 market. Credit rating agencies took notice. While no downgrades occurred immediately, internal reviews flagged Tesla's software deployment model as a future risk multiplier, placing its bonds under closer watch. Hedge fund letters leaked online showed firms quietly reducing their Tesla exposure, not due to lack of innovation, but due to instability in user trust and regulatory pressure. Tesla's operating margin had long been its greatest strength, but as software created liabilities faster than revenue, that margin was beginning to narrow. And beneath all the financial spreadsheets and quarterly reports, one truth remained clear. This was never just about a software patch. It was about trust, ownership, and who really controls the machines we rely on. This wasn't just a software update. It was a shift in power. If you drive, invest, or care about control in a connected world, this matters. Share this video, sound the alarm, and subscribe. Because what's coming next won't wait for permission, and neither should you. Stay informed, stay ahead, and don't let silence rewrite the story.